today, with the suspension done and all the tires holding the air overnight, because I put 2 new tubes in them. That's right, all the tires have air in them. It is now time to work on the bumper. Now, this bumper was a 1974 Oldsmobile 442. You know, 74 is pretty much the golden year for bumpers. But that didn't save this bumper. It's folded around the front of this 03 and newer frame. Like, look how thick this bumper is. And she's just folded. So we're going to be cutting it off today and throwing it in the scrap car outside. And yeah, we're just going to be hacking this apart into pieces that are manageable size, because this is a very heavy bumper when I welded it on. And we're going to take it off and throw it out. We're going to put the new plate on it. Sorry, the new tubing onto it. We might have to cut the frame just a little bit shorter because the ends are kind of twisted. And we'll go from there. So let's get cutting this thing off and see what she looks like. Well, that took quite a bit of time with the plasma cutter. Ends have been cut straight. Everything's been cut off. Bumper's over there. The new bumper that we're going to put on, that's the 442 bumper. I had to cut it off in quite a bit of pieces. The new bumper we're going to put on is the bumper off the front of Infected. You know, guys, reuse as many parts as you can. As you can see, Infected's being filled up right now with all the parts basically from Burn Barrel. You got all the frame sections that Glenn brought over. You got the springs that are no good to me. You got the transmission crossmember. That's some pretty thick steel. Sway bar, not some really thick steel. And you got the bumper. So we're going to bring this inside the shop. We're going to cut off all the plates. We're going to grind it clean, and we're going to install it on the front of this car and weld it on good, bud. Mint. So let's go clean this up and install it. Well, with the suspension done, we moved to the bumper, and now the bumper has been changed. This is a mini bumper, and the frame rails are actually narrower on this Crown Vic than they are on the Solera that it was off of. As you can see, the out of the frame rails used to come to here, and this is actually a narrower frame than a Toyota Camry. But this bumper looks nasty. We are 21.5 inches to bottom of bumper, and my God, this thing is starting to actually look pretty intimidating. This bumper here is probably about 40 pounds lighter than the bumper I took off, but it's going to fit and it sits and it works. So after we get this done, there's some things that we got to turn our attention to, which is the motor, and to get this thing running and driving again. This thing definitely needs a starter, and it's been Jimmy rigged to work, and it's been a couple years since the engine has actually ran. Actually, it's been a year since the engine's ran, and like little things like this need to be going over. Like the transmission cooler is loose. What's this off of? It's just a randomly broken bolt. The motor mounts do not look very happy. I will probably weld this one with a piece of plate, because I just did that to the other side because it was broken. This motor mount was actually broken, but we're going to be turning our attentions to the engine and drivetrain of this car here very shortly. But now with the suspension done, the tires fixed, the bumper on, it needs to run, it needs to drive, it needs to get into a demolition derby. So make sure you guys come back to see us start tearing into this motor and see how bad the fuel is actually in it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you back here tomorrow. Well, look who's sitting outside, all pretty and mean looking. That's right, it's Burn Barrel. I mean Meatloaf, whatever you guys want to call it. So we spent a couple hours today working on the motor. Starter's pretty much cooked. We haven't got that yet. Rear main seal and the transmission is pretty much cooked. Haven't got that. But we did get the bumper on. We spent a couple hours working on the motor today. Took the carb off, cleaned it up, tried to tune it as best as we could, get this thing going, and anyway, everything went pretty good with the tuning. The motor's actually still quite hot. I don't know. Burn Barrel, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much done to me. It's been an emotional time working on this car, that's for sure. It would have been better if we put some plates and stuff, but I'm not really into putting plates, but it's okay. Suspension sits so much taller now, as you guys see. It's not on the ground, and the gentleman that actually owns the car now will be derbying it again. I'm not sure if he's derbying it in 2020 or if it's going to be canceled or not. We'll have to wait and see. But This here is pretty much a stock 03 and newer frame. The only thing I did is I kind of welded up the crush boxes a little bit more than factory, but there is nothing added to this. There's no plates, there's no nothing. Even right up to the front, there is no plates. I didn't fill in the crush boxes. This here is actually a very, very stock build. I even left the aluminum sub because my rules when I was building it said that that had to stay. I couldn't swap out a Crown Vic one. But so I built a plate that sits on top of the sub that holds the motor, and I did do a motor swap. But even transmission cross members, all that fun stuff is actually very close to being stock. As you can see, it's just got a little bit of play so it can slide back and forth when the car starts bending. There's no plates or nothing on the frame anywhere, all stock body mounts. This car is actually fairly stock. The only things that are not stock about it is the small tilt I did here in the crush boxes, maybe about an inch, the Chevy motor, and the Ford 9-inch in the back. So that's all I've pretty much done to this thing. It ain't got a whole lot done to it. It's got 3/4 rod in the back, 3/4 rod in the front, and that's about it. So a lot of you guys down in the US, this would actually be your stock class. But for me up here, this is considered pro stock. And the solid suspension actually makes it pretty much pro mod. So my rules are quite a bit different than your rules. And I know that everybody always asks me, where's Burn Barrel, where's this? So, you know, I'm happy to get it back, to get a couple videos for you guys. And I'm happy to help out a couple friends and do some stuff to it. And one of the things that I like most about demolition derbies is trying new things. I put 70s GM uppers on this car, and I had no idea if it was going to work. And I'm actually quite surprised on how well it went together. They actually just kind of bolted right in. It was fairly simple, and I didn't really have any problems with it. But that's what I really love about this sport, is just getting a whole bunch of random junkyard pieces and trying to make them fit and seeing what you can come up with. It's kind of sets this sport apart from a lot of other sports. You don't have to make your stuff look nice. You don't make it have to be super strong. As long as it works and it runs and it's driving, it could be a winning car. So on that note, I've kind of thrown a whole bunch of parts at it. I've thrown one of my old bumpers off a Solaire onto it. I've welded on, but I didn't add any plates. I threw the GM uppers. I threw a piece of pipe in there instead of suspension. I filled the rear end with oil. I changed the gas in it. I did a carburetor clean and tune. Basically just spring maintenance on one of these derby cars that's been around as long as this. It still needs a couple things. The leftover parts from the front sub are just sitting on the back of it so they can go back. But I don't know. Happy to bring you guys some more videos. Happy to show off Burn Barrel. And maybe this will answer a lot of your questions on where she's been. So thanks for watching, everybody. And see you guys back here tomorrow on Zach's Workshop.